Ryan Ramsey joins us now. He's an ex-submarine captain. We spoke to him the other day about the search and recovery mission, which is being put underway over in the North Atlantic, above the Titanic wreckage, where many of these people have gone many times, actually, strangely enough, that we didn't know, many more times than we did know. This one particularly, though, has not come back, and it's still missing, and nobody really knows if there's any hope of finding it before the air is supposed to run out sometime after midday. Ryan, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. When you spoke to us last time, you were able to give us a pretty good insight into what it's like to be beneath the surface of the sea and how dangerous it is and how, you know, really, really unpredictable it is as well. I mean, clearly we've now been told that there's only a few hours of oxygen left in this missing Titan submersible. I suppose the search has been going on now for a good 48 hours or so, intensively, both above the surface of the sea and below it. It's a desperately sad situation, isn't it?
It really is, and a tragedy. And there's not much more that people can do about it, unfortunately. You've got the most capable units now on station attempting to search for the submersible, but the scale of that search is going to be large. The complexity of that search is significant. You can use sonars for some part of it, but actually for identification of the submersible itself, it probably needs to be another submersible to be able to do that. And if you look at where that submersible is in relation to the Titanic and the wreckage of the Titanic, classification of that submersible alongside another piece of wreckage is extremely difficult. Yeah,
I mean, as the search goes on throughout the course of this morning and into the next few hours, I mean, at which point will they call it off? Will they just keep going in the hope that they'll find something?
Well, safety of life at sea, which all mariners subscribe to, is basically to continue searching until you reach the conclusion that is now no longer a rescue mission but a salvage mission. And I suspect that they'll keep on going for another couple of days, even though they suspect that the air runs out or the oxygen runs out just after midday.
Right, and I mean, we still don't really know whether the submersible is in fact below the surface of the top of the sea, or whether it's actually even bobbing around already above the sea. I was astonished to learn yesterday, which I didn't know, that the people inside it have been more or less kind of welded inside the vessel. They can't get out without somebody from the outside helping them to do so.
That's correct. So the hatch is shut from the outside. So the helplessness of the 5 people inside the submersible is significant. I think if it had been on the surface, though, the maritime patrol aircraft that have been searching, they've got exceptional capability. They would have detected it by now. So on a personal level, I don't think that's particularly the case. Right. It's either on the bottom or something's happened on the way down.
Yeah, it would seem so, because I would have thought, as you say, if there is as much attention being paid to the surface of the water, you would think radar would pick up something even as small as that.
Correct. If you think that the maritime patrol aircraft are predominantly there to search for submarines, and it's searching for submarine periscopes, so the definition of their radar, which should enable them to find it on the surface.
Right. And I mean, obviously, this will have a knock-on effect, won't it, on the kinds of, I suppose, missions that are run from this point on to see the Titanic, to take people down there. Do you anticipate there being more rules and regulations kind of being put in place? I think a lot of people have been surprised how lax the rules and regulations have been.
Well, I think there are rules and regulations in place. So if you look at all the other submersibles that are arriving on site, they've gone through a standard regulation process to make sure that they're capable of doing what they're doing. This one, from what I've read and what I've seen so far, appears not to have undergone the same scrutiny that those ones have undergone. But I mean, all this will come out in the subsequent investigation after this tragedy. So hopefully lessons are learned. And I know the maritime community always looks to learn lessons. So lessons will be learned from this, and they'll apply those accordingly.
Yeah. And technically speaking, and I know this may sound like a bit of a stupid question after all these days, but I'm assuming that the Titanic is in international waters, right?
Yes, it is, yeah. So most nations have what's called a 12-mile limit, which is their territorial waters, and everything else outside of that 12-mile limit is international waters.
And so who sort of polices that, if you like?
You've got international maritime law, which covers one part of it, and then also navies policing as well around not just territorial waters but also in international waters.
Right.
But for regulation-wise, it comes down to the regulation of the particular country that allows the vessel to go to sea.
And as far as that noise was concerned yesterday, people were reporting that they'd heard some kind of knocking noise or some kind of tapping noise. I mean, that doesn't seem to have led to anything new, really, does it?
No, it doesn't. I think the initial report was a bit more vague than it ended up being reported.
Yeah.
It may have been tapping. Now, if you'd have heard those sounds, and they were every 30 minutes, you'd be continuing to search for those. So to have only heard a couple of those and then nothing more,
right.
I think it was more hope than potential.
Yes, I'm afraid so. Ryan, thank you so much for talking to us. It's very difficult, obviously, to look ahead to what might happen in just a couple of hours' time.